If you have any question, we'll do the Facebook Live pretty soon. Share it in a couple of groups. We have this Facebook group. All right. Today's gonna be really uh basically a Q&A. So I'll answer your question if you have any question. And I want to share a couple of pieces of advice, things I've been working on, things I've been asking the past week. And there's quite a few things. So we'll do that today. The goal here is not only to talk, but it's to help you out to make sure that you get something of value out of this live video. That's going to be the goal for today. And the first thing I want to talk about is I got an email. Uh, minute, I'm talking about the right thing. But if you have any question, comment below and let me know. I'll do my best to answer the question, whether it's about technical analysis, about uh, psychology, or about routines, or about all that stuff, peak performance. I'm all available to answer that. So put your question below, type them. I'll do my best to answer that pretty quick. But the question I got recently by email is basically how do you structure your day and how do you put all the pieces together? Because you probably know now that I trade, I host a podcast, I have this site to run, I have the academy that I'm trying to run also. And it's a lot of things to do all at once. So the way I basically think about that is that I'm gonna go with priorities. So sometimes trading is gonna be more priority than other times. Times something else is gonna be a bigger priority than other things. So I might not trade every single day. I don't day trade every single day, that's for sure. But I try to schedule my day as much as I can to do the most important thing now. Okay, so for example, this morning I was day trading because this is something that I think was important to do this morning because we had some news release, we had some things, and some other days it might not be the same thing, right? Some days I'll, let's say, write an article in the morning and I'll do something else. But the key here and the common point is that you need to sort of know in advance what you're going to do every single day. So I found that it's really difficult if you're going to wake up, let's say, and then decide what you want to do. Well, am I going to trade today? Am I not going to trade? Am I going to watch the chart? Am I going to do multi-time frame? What am I going to do today? So if you don't know in advance, much harder to know to decide on what you'll be doing. Okay, so this is pretty much how I structure the day. And then, of course, I never trade in the afternoon except for swing trading, but I never like day trade in the afternoon because the volatility for me, I find it's kind of too like it's just not strong enough. So I don't. I rarely day trade in the afternoon, and even never. So the link. If Joanne you're watching, this is the Facebook Live link. Be able to check it out here. All right. So now that I've covered schedule, the other question I got is about because basically the fact is that I've been interviewing a lot of people on the podcast, right? There's probably 60 or something now. And like people ask me what would be the number one like the person that I learned the most from. And it's really hard for me to answer the question. But I think the person I learned the most from was probably Andrew Maneker. Because Andrew Maneker talked about psychology, and there's like a couple of very important concepts percent from Andrew Maneker. And I even did like a Q&A session with him afterward. So with you guys, you were probably there. But we did really a Q&A session where we went in detail on psychology topics. So before talking with Andrew Maneker, I had no idea of how to use a journal, right? Not the journal you see to track your trade, but the one to track how you feel, how you act, right? I didn't have any idea. And I didn't really know what to do when I felt uncomfortable, right? So I felt stressed sometimes. I felt like I didn't know if I would have a winning trade or a losing trade. And I kind of at that time I was acting more kind of on the spot, right? So having no structure onto how I would exit the trade. Andrew Maneker really talks about how you should track yourself and how you should write in your journal how you feel, then why you feel that way. This is something that I got. I got my journal after that. I started to write every single day in it, and every single week to reflect on the previous week, and that made a big difference. But of course, like there's a lot of people in the podcast, not one person you can learn from. Uh, I'm gonna ask you guys, like just for fun, what would be the number one guest you found on the podcast? Just comment below. I'm curious to see because we had a lot. So I don't know. It's really hard to answer. So comment below to tell me your number one guest on the podcast, the one you preferred. And what I noticed is that a lot of people liked Rob Colville, I think. Yeah, he talked about how to basically day trade and swing trade at the same time. I know other people who like more Jason Sen, who talked about technical analysis. That's a great topic too, because this is something you have to know and you have to kind of master. But I'm really curious. Get out in the comment now. Answers. Oh, two Chris. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Chris Capri, of course. That, but like, there's so many, and the thing is that when you talk with a lot of people, right, you kind of get a picture of what everyone's going to talk about, and you think you know what people are going to talk about in the upcoming interviews, but in the end, kind of always different, right? So it's really always different. I was afraid at some point that people will just come up with the exact same topic and talk about the same thing, but I didn't see too much kind of overlap in the podcast. That's pretty interesting. And I know we had people talking about news, which really helped me because I didn't have any clue what to do with news before, and then that helped me a lot. Um, we had people talking about how to have energy, more energy in your day, fitness. So there's really a lot. Oh, Reno Teo. Yeah, that's a yeah for sure. And yeah, Renner is just one I really respect. And yeah, so I was talking about the fact that there's no overlap with the podcast. That's really interesting. Like one person might talk about money management, the other guy might talk about something else. They never have this like the exact same message. And I know best people on the podcast, I think they have like a message. They have something that they can kind of summarize quickly at the end. So I know I'm not sure if that was published. Or that's going to be next week, next Monday. Next Monday is going to be Paul Wallace, and you'll see like the three parts he has to trading, and they're like completely different from everyone. So a lot of people are going to talk about methodology, psychology, and money management. Those are the, like three things. But he talked about like three other things that I don't remember now, but you guys are gonna check it out on Monday, I'm sure. That's and I'll just yeah, I'm just uh question I had here. What time frame do you really gonna depend? And oh, that's another thing I was talking about. The guy this morning by email. So which time frame is gonna be when I'm gonna swing trade? It's really the daily chart and the 4 hour chart. I don't really go lower. And when I day trade, it's mostly gonna be the 5 minute chart. Okay. So what I found is that the 15-minute chart is maybe more reliable when you're gonna day trade. You get a little bit more kind of strength in your signals. But I hate to be there like 15 minutes, and I think that takes way too much time. So I prefer the 5 minute chart, and this way I'm able to trade like only 2 hours or 2 hours and a half, and you see a lot more candles. So that's really helping out. So 5 minute chart to day trade, 4 hour chart and daily chart to swing trade. Primary time frame. And I know the 1 hour chart is viable too, but I don't really look at it that much. Simply because I think that 1 hour chart you can have a candle every 1 hour. Kind of a lot to check. So if you want to go back every single hour to check the candles, see what happens, I don't know. It's like not my style really. I want to be able to do something else. That's another thing why I talked about scheduling your daily schedule. Right? You don't wanna don't want to spend your whole day trading or just looking at the chart. like to see like trading. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Johan, I just got an interview with Tim Syke next week, so I'll be able to do this. But it doesn't really talk about Forex. It talks about penny stock. Yeah, just to see that. That's a good question too. Yeah, because some people are able to trade different markets. And they may be trading stocks or penny stocks in that case, and they might be able to transition to other things. But yeah, we'll see how Tim Syke does. But if you guys, by the way, have any guests you would like to see in the podcast, let me know and I'll check them out. I'll try to them on the podcast. And I'm always like reaching out to a lot of people every single week. It takes a lot of time sometimes. It takes a lot of repetition, but the goal is to get all of them. So if you have any suggestion, let me know, and we'll do this. And the other question I got by email, open this up. It's also about like whether to choose between intraday or swing trading. That's yeah, yeah. The question was basically, are you mostly taking position intraday, right? If you want to do something else in your life, like if you want to post a podcast, if you want to write blog posts, if you want to do all that stuff, is it better to day trade or to swing trade? And right now I'm doing both. It's a little bit challenging, but my opinion is that both are fine. Both ways are good. Because what I used to do is I used to, let's say, day trade only in the Asian sessions at night. That would like free up the whole day. And the other thing you could do is you can day trade only in the morning. That free up the whole afternoon, the whole evening. Depending on what you want to do and when you want to do it, there's always a way to kind of switch things around. Got it all. Yes, there's always a way to. Uh, this is distracting a little. There's always a way to organize your day to trade correctly. And the reason why I kind of like swing trading, why I like day trading a little bit more, that when you travel, a little bit easier, I think, to day trade than to trade. Because when you swing trade, you kind of have to go back and watch the chart a few times a day. While if you're just gonna day trade, you just have to do it in the morning or just at night. And with the time zones, I think that's a lot easier to adjust. If you're gonna be in Europe, and I know a lot of you guys are in Europe, then it's gonna be much easier for you to kind of trade the London session. And if you're in like Canada, like I am now, then you might want to trade the New York session or the Asian session. And I know that's one thing Chris Cooper talked about. Said he was in Montreal before. Not sure if it's Vancouver or something, but it's really far, right? And the time zones are different. So the way he has to work with this is he has to adjust. Instead of trading the New York session like he did before, now it's trading like the Asian session, and he finds it pretty interesting. So whenever you're gonna be in the world, there's always gonna be a time zone you can trade. That's kind of like. While if you're gonna swing trade, gonna have to go back in your chart a few times. That's my take. Day trading is like more intense, but it's only for like 2 3 hours. Then you're done. Done for the whole day. Depending on how you want to structure your thing, that might work. And actor? What pair do I mostly trade? Yeah. When I swing trade, there's like 10 to 15 pairs. They're pretty much the major ones, plus a couple of others. I have them here, so I'll just for fun. So yeah, Euro USD, GBP USD, AUD USD, USD CAD, NZD USD, USD and Swiss franc, USD Japanese yen, GBP CAD, AUD USD, GBP USD, yeah, GBP and ZD, so the pound versus New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar, Japanese yen. This is a pair, by the way, a strange pair that I like to trade. This Singapore dollar, so USD Singapore dollar, and Euro CAD and Euro GPY. Those are the like 10, I think 12 pairs I swing trade. When I day trade, it's really only the four majors that I like. So Euro USD, GBP USD, NZD USD, and USD CAD. Those are gonna be the like the four that I day trade. Pretty much it. There's not much to it, and I think there's not a big like when you're gonna day trade. The only requirement you have is that you want to have a low spread for your currency that you're gonna trade. So I know I used to trade like Euro CAD. I used to day trade that, but it's just a pain because you have a spread of like times four pips, right? So that's really tough to trade. While if you're gonna go with USD CAD, it's a little bit better because you have like 2.3 sometimes. So like that's the highest. So it's a lot easier to trade pairs with a low spread. But when you swing trade, you don't really have this problem. You're probably gonna have a bigger profit. So the spread is not gonna matter that much. So that's I have a couple of people watching that. Yeah, uh, Joan's saying it looks like you trade when you see opportunity, and I don't really like to see it that way because I don't know because I could like take the 15 pairs that I'm following in swing trading and then look at them every morning and then like switch through them to find opportunities to trade. But I found that this is not necessarily the best way to because it's really too easy to get distracted between different pairs. Let's say you're scrolling through your pairs and you have like I don't know like 4 or 5 pairs that you can trade that day. Well, it's going to be really tough to focus and put trades on all of them. So I prefer to focus on those like four, and then if I don't have trade, then it's fine. If I have trade, then it's even better. But I don't want to necessarily search for trade. I want to wait for them, and usually I'm going to trade like probably take like probably 1 or 2 trades a day, or like let's say 3 maximum. Okay, I'm not going to go with like 5 trades. And if I miss the first trade, well, usually I'm not going to enter a second one. Not because I like get impacted by it, not because I'm affected by it, but because I know that if the first trade doesn't work, then the trend is likely to die, and it's probably not going to work for the next trade. So it's not about necessarily opportunities and like, trying to enter a trade. It's really about trying to wait and get the right conditions. So yeah, question coming. Yeah, my setup. Hector, what is your monitor setup? Well, I'll tell you now. Two things I have is I have like a small laptop. I have basically 2 screens, so that's pretty simple. But you could watch them like just with a laptop. And the way I do is I just have like let's say trading view, and I just open it like when I want to check the pairs. So let's say every 4 hours I'm gonna open trading view. Then I have like the watch list side. So it's really easy from there to just look at the watch list, go one by one, and look at what's happening. So the thing that can be challenging if you're gonna is if you're gonna have like one monitor to do multiple time frame. That's gonna be a little bit tougher. But for the rest, not a big challenge, right? And like I do open MetaTrader sometimes just to look at chart, to look at different form because you can have like 4 charts on your screen. But to me, it doesn't make a big difference. It doesn't change a lot. So usually, like I'm usually fine with just a laptop. Sometimes I trade it with the laptop, sometimes not, depending if I'm home or not. But it doesn't make a big difference. I don't necessarily like the big setup like with like 4 screens and stuff, so I prefer to keep it simple. And yeah, that's and the thing I found is that trading view is good for something, and MetaTrader is better for other things. And like not in terms of entering trade or anything, but really in terms of what you analyze. So if you're gonna go on trading view, Right? The only option you have is you can select one time frame, then you look at all the charts with the same time frame. That's like one way. So if you're gonna trade one time frame only or like two, then it's good. But if you want to trade multiple time frame, right? If you want to look at a chart and then you see a nice setup based on the daily chart, but you want to enter on the 1 hour, then you go to the 1 hour. But then if you go to the next chart, you'll have to go to the 1 hour too, or go back to the daily chart. You can only choose one time frame. While in MetaTrader, you can have multiple time frames. So every single chart can have different time frame. If you have a setup that you look at on the 1 hour chart on MetaTrader, then you can look at it. But then you can go to another pair and look at the daily chart or at other pairs. You won't lose the first chart. That's pretty interesting. Bread and butter setup. My bread and butter now is really the one I talk about a lot. Been watching my videos on YouTube. It's the Bollinger Band reversal, and that works a lot in swing trade more than day trade, because in day trade you have some trends more, I think. So swing trade is really good, and it's like really simple. It's basically having some sort of big rejection of the price level with a break of the Bollinger Band. You have a big candlestick breaking out, and then a big candlestick coming back in. You can use different price action setup with that. One I like to use is the engulfing candle with the Bollinger Band reversal, and it works like wonderful. So that's pretty much my simple. And if you want to add more confluence, you look at it with support and zone, but you can still use it without support and resistance. You can just use the Bollinger Band, and it did like, I don't know, that's the one I found interesting because it's really simple. You don't have to look at a lot of stuff. It's simple to know when the setup is good and when it's bad, because you know if it's breaking out strongly or not. So I'll try to, well, there's like a lot of videos on my YouTube channel about that, but I can always put a link, one of those trades, comment. Not sure if you guys have seen these videos. I think it's been a while since I didn't do those. But the summer was really bad for that strategy, though. That's the one thing I have to admit, because we had Brexit, and after Brexit, like everything was sideways. When it's sideways, it's really hard to have some reversals, to have some strength. So I could enter trades and like be stopped out quickly or like without any volume. Or the other thing that happens, I would get like, would have maybe a 1-to-1 reward to risk, then price would just go back up. So really, it's good to use in sideways market, but when it's really consolidating, especially in higher time frame, then it's tough to trade with that. Let me search for one of those videos. I'll put a link to a video below here, the comment. One of the video I did about the Bollinger Band. There's a lot of other, like if you just search Bollinger Band under my channel on YouTube, you'll find a lot. But that's pretty much the basic idea behind this. And what indicators do I like to use? The most? I like the Bollinger Band. That's probably the number one. I sometimes use the RSI, not a lot. Like it's really specifics for breakouts. And I use moving average when I day trade. So it's really simple, nothing fancy. And I like to keep it Bollinger Band, RSI, and EMAs, being average. Pretty much the ones that. And like the only thing with indicators is that you have to know when to use them. Some of them, I said it, are gonna work super great in like super well in trends. Some of them are gonna work super bad in trends. Right? So you want to know when to use them. So I'm gonna use the RSI. I know like from the start that I'm not gonna use it in a trend. If I see a trend and I see that it's overbought, then I'm not even gonna consider it. I'm not even gonna use the RSI. the RSI is not gonna be on my chart at this point even. So you need to know when to use an indicator. And same thing with moving average. And if you're gonna open up a chart, day trade, and you have your moving average, you look at crossovers, but it's sideways, then like you're wasting your time. Right? It's not gonna work. So really the idea behind indicators, you need to know when to use. Like we could go on and on with this, but the idea is kind of simple, right? Indicators are working good in trends, some of them not. So some are for sideways market, some of them are for trends. And that's like when I realized that, like this is a course that I ended up like even like a coach that I ended up to hire at some point, probably a year ago. And when I realized this, it's like like that was amazing because I never thought about that. I never thought about the fact that indicators don't work all the time. That you cannot just trade blindly with indicators. You have to know when to use them. Yeah, cool. Well, Greg, okay, no problem, Greg. That's totally fine. If you guys have any other question, I'll be available for like a 5 minute more. Then I have to prepare a couple of emails and I have to go out after things to do. So if you have any question, go and shoot them now. If not, we'll finish the video and I'll try to do one like pretty much every single week now. Every single week I'll try to add some value with the Q&A. I think it's just a good way to I feel like I'll have a couple of guests for the podcast. So that's great. Well, right now I'll tell you the podcasts are done and like they're recorded until the end of October for now. So yeah, I just did a lot over the summer and a lot before the summer, so they're like packed. And there's really a lot of great guests coming. You guys are going to see it. But for after, yeah, of course, like I'll have to pick more guests and I'll have to do more. And that's another thing when we talked about like the schedule and stuff. Uh, good, like I structured my day correctly. But the other thing I had to do recently, I had to hire someone to do editing because it takes way too much time, and that's like time I could take to write an article to trade. And if I'm gonna edit everything myself, then it's really gonna take a lot of time. So I had to hire someone to do the editing, which take like 3 4 hours every single time. So like the thing is if you're gonna do every single thing on the podcast, on the business side, on the academy, like everything with trading and editing the podcast with it, then like of course you're not gonna do it. But if you go like strategically and you pick thing that you want to do that makes sense to do, then it's much easier to combine everything and to do what you want to do. So you guys have any question about the schedule too, let me know. Depending like what you want to do, if you want to day trade or not. And even if you day trade, like there's sessions that work better than others. So I really love the Asian session because it's sort of more calm. You can like take your time and you can enter your trades and it's usually working well. I wrote an article about that, so you can check it out. But like for people who have trouble to stay focused for long hours or who have trouble to like act fast, then the Asian session might be good for that. And I don't trade it that much now simply because of my schedule. I find it tougher to trade in the evening 'cause I wake up super early. But it's just like you can always adapt it to whatever you want to do. Probably go back to it. If you guys have any questions, shoot them. If not, we'll finish the video now. I'll prepare the blog post, but the email from Monday for the podcast, and that's gonna be pretty much it. All right. So I see no other questions. So thanks guys for showing up. It's been really amazing. I like to do these Q&As. I like to bring some value. And if you have any question, let me know. You're all in our Facebook groups. That's good. I'll have to say it. But again, if you have any question, connect with me. Let me know. And if you have any problem, I'll do my best to help you out. Thanks a lot for joining me today, and I'll see you pretty soon.